Alright guys and girls, here is a little review. We're going to just have a look at these drawings on the board and do a quick review, and then we're going to move into a couple new things. So first I want us to look at these four shapes. All these four shapes are divided equally, and we're just going to have a quick look and talk about what fractions these are for these shapes. So number one, this shape, circle, it's divided into four parts, and those four parts are equally divided, and we've shaded in three of those parts. So our denominator for this shape is 4, and our numerator is 1, 2, 3. Okay, because we are talking about three of those shapes. We're going to talk about numerator and denominator in a few minutes. This shape, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces cut up for this pie, and two of those pieces are shaded in. So our denominator for this is 5. And 2 is our numerator, because two of the pieces are shaded in. Our rectangle. A rectangle is divided into 8 pieces, so it's divided up into 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those pieces have been shaded in. And the last one here is another circle. It's divided into 8 equal pieces, not drawn very well, but again, 8 equal pieces. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those are shaded in. So I want you guys to make sure you can look at shapes and determine, one, how many pieces is this shape or object being divided into, and how many of those pieces are we talking about? For us, we're shading things in. Or maybe it's a pie and you're eating 2 pieces. So you have to be able to recognize those two things. So we have to review how to name fractions. Okay, so we're looking at these fractions: 4 over 9, 6 over 8, 2 over 3, and 3 over 4. And these have words that are associated with how we name those things. So when we see a fraction, we don't just say it's 4 over 9, we say 4 ninths. So we write that 4 ninths. Okay, 6 over 8 will be 6 eighths. It gets tricky. 2 over 3 would be 2 thirds. And 3 over 4 would be 3 fourths. Or, you know it, 3 quarters. Okay. All right, let's look at this fraction. How would we write this one? Well, first, it's 19. It's over 20 thirds, so we'd write that as 20 thirds. 19, I'm running out of room, 20 thirds. So with anything, practice, practice, practice. So I'm going to include some of these examples for you to practice inside of Google Classroom. So go there after this video is finished, and you can begin to go through those and practice writing out the names of fractions. We're going to review numerators and denominators. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at our shape. It doesn't matter what the shape is, I just chose this one. It's random. I have a circle. It's divided into 4 equal pieces, and I've shaded in one of those pieces. So we would know that that fraction is 1 over 4. You guys should all be familiar with that. 1 over 4, or 1/4, or 1/4. Now, the numerator is the top number. In this case, we'll say 1. And the denominator is always the bottom number, 4. Okay, now the denominator, the number 4, the denominator always tells us how many pieces our object is being cut into. So if I have a cake with 4 pieces, the denominator tells me that I'm cutting that cake into 4 pieces. Or if I have that same cake and I decide I'm going to cut that into 8 pieces, so I slice my cake up into 8 pieces, my denominator will change because I sliced my cake up into more pieces. The denominator always tells us how many equal size pieces our object is cut into. Our numerator is telling us what each one of those pieces is worth. So if I take out one piece and I eat it, so let's say this is cake, I eat one of 8 pieces of cake. Or you could say I've eaten 1/8 of the cake. Now we have 2/8 shaded in. Remember, each one is worth 1, so I have 2 shaded in, 1, 2. So you would say I have 2/8 of the cake shaded. The numerator is telling us how many or what parts of the object we're talking about. In our example, we're talking about 2 of the 8 pieces of cake. Okay, or I can divide it again in half. Okay, now that makes 16 pieces of cake, and 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are shaded in. So my denominator would have to change to 16, because now my cake is cut up into 16 pieces. And my numerator no longer is 2, because now 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of cake are shaded in. So remember, denominator is always the bottom number. It always tells us how many pieces our object is being cut into. And our numerator is always the top number, and it tells us what one of those pieces is worth. In other words, it's worth 1, and then if we're talking about more than 1, how many? So in our case, we're talking about 4 pieces of cake, 4 of the 16 pieces, or 4/16. Let's pretend that these circles are cakes. I'm getting hungry. Now we have one small cake, and we have one large cake. So we have 2 cakes. Would this statement be true? One small cake equals one large cake? Well, no, obviously not. One small cake does not equal one large cake because of the size of the cakes. Even though we have one of each, we have a whole one of each cake, the small cake is not the same as the big cake. They're not equal to each other because of size. Now I have 2 squares. Both of these squares are divided in half. In other words, they're cut down the center. There's 2 equal halves, so I'm representing half of a cake with the shaded in part. And in this square, I'm also showing half of a cake. So would it be true that this half a cake equals this half of a cake? I mean, they're both halves, right? But obviously not. The answer is not correct. This half is smaller than this half, even though we're talking about 2 halves of 2 cakes. This cake is smaller. So remember, the fraction or the number is telling us how many we're talking about, but the size of the object matters. Okay guys, that was a short one, so go into your assignments for this lesson and complete them. If you have any questions, just do a private message to me. I can help you out. And say hello to each other when you're in there too. You can chat with each other while you're in Google Classroom, and try to have a little fun with it. All right, bye. And 3/4 will be 3. All right, let's look at this fraction.